Alright guys, so I've been doing some extensive researching here with my boy Space. This is going to be a short video just on how to counter the big ass giant turtle. I'm going to do an in-depth video like basically showcasing everything about it, from the resistances to the counters to how to mate it, how to tame it, and all that stuff here in the future, because a lot of people seem to be interested in that idea. But I've been doing some testing with rock golems, turtles, pair racers, and the big turtle just to compare different resistances and things. We tried pretty much everything that you can think of, even a catapult, just to see what does good and what does not do good. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and unclaim this really quickly. Then I'm going to quickly claim the pair racer and the carbo and the rock golem. So this is the heavy turret damage. It does 112 to the shell. If you do hit in the head, it does do quite a bit. It does like 560. But again, people aren't going to be pushing in a way that makes it to where it hits the head, and they can very easily tell if it's hitting it in the head or the legs or wherever, you know. So they're not going to be doing that. You're going to be getting the 112 damage. This is prim saddle, no mate boost, no imprint, 112 damage, and then the tech. Ironically, the tech actually does less damage. So anybody in my comments from the first video who thought, well, maybe tech is the answer, it's not. We did test the Giga over there that I tamed to try and see if it did additional damage. It did 44 damage because it's a 20 melee Giga. It did 44 damage to every other dino. I think it would have done more to the golem, but I didn't test because I already know they have increased damage to golem, and it did 44 damage to this as well. I even tried to hit in the head just to be sure. So that's not the answer either. So I know what you guys are thinking. What are the actual hard counters to this? So I'm going to show you guys a couple that we've found, starting with the simplest one, which is for people who are getting fobbed by somebody who's tamed a really low level turtle. And you know, even these low level ones can get to scary amounts of HP, 40 to 50 to 60k health, but at the same time you're gonna have a best chance doing it with something like a lower level one versus a higher level one, because higher level ones get to like 150 plus. So first thing that we found was, contrary to what most creatures take in fire damage, the turtle, the pair racer, they both take 40 damage per tick. Depends on what resistances they have to projectiles, how much they're going to take on the initial hit. But 40 damage per tick, 40 damage per tick. The turtle, the big one, for some reason takes 100 damage per tick. So that's actually like 150% the normal amount to take. This also does translate over when using a flamethrower. So if you're using a flamethrower, it's 40 damage per tick. If you use a flamethrower on the turtle, it's 40 damage per tick, and I have every reason to believe that the flame from a fire wyvern would also be the same. The initial burn damage aside, I think the dot fire damage is the same no matter what, and with the flamethrower it also does 100 damage per tick. So that is kind of one way to bleed this thing out a little bit. Granted, you're only doing 100 damage times, I think it's like 6 dots of damage. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, you're doing 600 damage with one flame arrow. That is pretty good as far as the amount of resources invested versus how much damage you're doing. But remember, this is going to have like 60k health probably at a minimum. So you're looking at still around, I think it's like at that point, if you're doing 600 damage, if you did 10 of those, you do 6,000. If you did 100 of those, you would do 60,000. So you need at least 100 flame arrows to kill it. And in that same time, they're probably going to be soaking a lot of your base and LOSing a lot of your turrets, because these things are fucking massive. They can walk right up to your base and start LOSing all of your turrets. Meanwhile, there's loads of room for multiple people to run under and start C4ing through your wall and whatnot. But there is a answer to getting this killed a little bit quicker. So the first thing is they take a lot of extra damage compared to normal dinos when it comes to explosives. So as you can see, the turtle takes 575 in the shell. The pair racer takes 83 and 575. Even shooting the shell, this thing takes over 1,000 damage, or just under 1,000 damage rather. And if you shoot it in any of the soft spots, you get a little extra damage. It's not super important. because the 958 is consistent whether you're shooting in the shell or in the soft spots. So explosives do seem to be a good counter. This also does work with the C4. So if you guys look here, we're going to go ahead and throw C4 on this Paracer, and it does 750, but in the same splash, and that was pretty far too. The same splash damage hit for almost 2k on this thing. So I mean, you're not talking a whole lot at that point. If this thing's only got 60k health, somebody rocks up and you can get 30 C4 down, you can blow those up. That's gonna drop this thing pretty quick. I do not know that the saddle and mate boost and stuff will affect the explosive damage. I would assume that it would, but regardless, it doesn't seem like with C4 or rockets it would take too much to kill a low level one of these. Another thing to consider is these things cannot eat veggie cakes. So initially I was worried they might be able to, but I did test that, and they do consume, but they do not gain the benefit from veggie cakes. They are omnivores. The last kind of weird counter that we found, and this is just from Space having me literally test everything. He even wanted me to test a lightning wyvern, but lightning wyverns aren't present on the map, so I don't really see the point. If you guys are interested in me doing that, maybe I'll do it as like a little extra in another video. Let me know down in the comments, and I will put it into the next video, whatever the guide is. I'll just put it at the end. So out of nowhere, he was like, well, why don't we test the ballista turret and the cannon? So this is the ballista turret when you damage a Paracer. It does 833 damage and pushes it back a bit. If you shoot it at a turtle, the turtle takes no damage because the turtle is immune to all damage and it's OP as shit. Hello? I'm very curious. I actually haven't tested it on the carbon emis, so I don't know if maybe the carbon emis is going to take some heap amount of damage. I'm not sure. But let's take a little peek-see here. Okay, for some reason I literally can't hit it. But anyways, if you hit this thing in the shell, you do 250, which is like a bit of a yikes. But if you hit it anywhere in the soft spots, so the legs, the head, I'll shoot it here in this like middle leg just to show you. It does 1250 damage. Now if you guys aren't aware, these spears are actually extremely cheap to craft. Cementing paste, fiber, flint, all of these materials besides the metal ingots are very like negligible. The thatch and the wood you're going to get from one slot cap more than enough to make a shitload of these. The metal ingots, it's only 14 per, and you're doing 1250 damage. So again, if this thing has 60k health, you're only going to have to put about 50 to 60 of these, depending if you miss a few shots, into this thing, and it's going to die. Now obviously you're going to be very vulnerable to being shot off of the ballista turret when you're getting attacked and you're trying to use this thing. So later on, like late game tribes, I would recommend putting it on something like a hover skiff, because then you can, fly around while you're shooting it, and it makes it a lot harder for you to get shot off. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you have a lot of people in your tribe and you're plugging away at this thing's noggin or its legs. If you get shot off, another tribe member can hop right back on, and the fire rate on these is pretty high, so you can just get a few shots in and then you die, and then your tribe mates gets on, and you can see how in no time flat you'd have this thing dropped. So I am actually pretty happy that we were able to find a few counters. The only thing that wasn't a suitable counter that I thought would be is the tech grenade launcher. I thought since it had resistances lowered for explosives that it would be better, but it's actually really, really not worth unless you're using tech grenades, which then you do just under the same damage that you would do with a rocket, so it's obscenely not worth to use that. And we tried the cruise missile as well, which the cruise missile did roughly the same damage as C4, and as you guys know, the cruise missile is very, very expensive. So hopefully this is going to help you guys defend your bases on the Genesis DLC, whether you're on official or unofficial. If somebody decides to rock up with a Mega Shell on, as long as they don't have an Ascendant Saddle, mate boost, and imprint, honestly, this is probably one of your cheapest options here, is to just get yourself some fire arrows, set that bit on fire, and then just start hammering it with the ballista turret. You're going to do 1250 damage per shot, plus an additional 600 damage while it's on fire, as long as you have one tribe mate keeping it on fire and the ballista turret shooting it down. Even at like 80 to 100k health, if it's taking the same damage that it's taking here and they don't have the additional resistances, you can drop this thing in pretty quick fashion. So I'm actually really happy that we did take the time to look into all the different things that could damage it and find some suitable ways to take these things down. I still do think that once these things are bred out, and they actually have mutations, imprint, and good saddles, not to mention UD buff and stuff like that, they are still going to be extremely broken. I do want them to scale back how much HP they gain per level. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If there's any other creatures that you guys want more info on, make sure to let me know as well. So anyways, that's going to wrap things up for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.